Hello, friends. So I just want to take a moment and talk through what can often happen for folks midway through their experience of the Safe and Sound protocol or working on their nervous systems in general. So many of us, especially those of us who are assigned female at birth, have been trained to stay calm and to be nice. Okay. So that can put those of us who have that experience into a chronic dorsal response or a functional freeze, as I've heard it called. When we've been in a functional freeze or in this chronic dorsal or chronic underdefensive state or chronic playing dead, it's the freeze and fawn state, right? We can feel very avoidant of sympathetic. And sympathetic is the more mobilized state where we're actually more empowered. It's a stronger stance to be in fight and flight than it is to be in freeze and fawn. So just think about like a little mouse with a tiger, like is going to be more susceptible to being eaten if they are playing dead and just laying there than they would be if they were to run away. Okay, so sympathetic is a more empowered place to be than dorsal. However, it can also be a very scary place to be because many of us have been trained that to be nice or to be chill is going to be rewarded by society. So if you think about in your early childhood, let's say you're 2 or 3 years old and you're flipping out or running or like hitting or throwing things, your adults are going to say to you like, calm down, like sit still, be nice, don't scream, right? So we're being redirected by external authorities, most of us, since birth to go back to dorsal. And what's misunderstood is that calming down is often just like a disassociation or like a cramming down of all of that actual physiological response of sympathetic that's trying to protect you. And when you spend decades, for most of us, in this over like the sympathetic is being pushed down and you're like chronically going back to dorsal without expressing or moving through these hormones and chemicals that are being provided to your body in response to the threat, you can have all sorts of health problems, including anxiety and panic attacks, right? So two things that I like to share with people when they start to sort of defrost from this functional freeze, which often happens again midway through the SSP, as things are starting to come back online and your nervous system is like, oh yeah, I want to go back towards ventral, which requires mobilizing up through sympathetic. Some things are going to start to come online that are going to feel a little scary, like irritation, anger, a little bit more energy in your body than you've had for a while. And it can feel very overwhelming and disorienting. And you can have this impulse to be like, I need to calm down, because many people misunderstand and think that we're trying to do this work to like get ourselves to some sort of chill zone, where really we're just trying to get ourselves to a place where we can flexibly move between dorsal, sympathetic, and ventral, and according to the moment, like we can meet the moment with the appropriate response. So as this comes up for folks and they're sort of disorientedly for the first time, more mobilized and having this sympathetic response, they can be like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Am I just supposed to be ragey, right? So we talk about effective mobilization versus ineffective mobilization. Okay. The ineffective is like, I'm just irritated, I'm just anxious, I'm just angry, and I'm trying to shut it down, or I'm trying to force myself to breathe, or I'm just lashing out at everyone around me. That's the ineffective. And at this point, when we start to see the sympathetic wake back up, what we want to offer the nervous system is effective mobilization. So effective mobilization is two-pronged approach. One is increased movement. So we know that when someone's a little animal in terms of evolution goes into sympathetic, they're gearing up to physically have the ability to run or to fight, right? Fight or flight. And so if you keep that body still and you don't give it that movement, which was designed to process through those chemicals, then those chemicals are going to get trapped in the body and create sickness. So increasing your movement is one of the most beneficial ways to support yourself in effectively mobilizing up through sympathetic to get to ventral. Movement is not the same thing as exercise, okay? Because some people do exercise in a really like defense state. Because they're either having a dialogue about how they're not good enough, or they need to change their body, or they need to change their physical capacity. So we want to avoid anything that's associated with that for you. If exercise is fun for you, then go ahead. If you have a healthy relationship with exercise, go ahead. But if you have a relationship that has is a lot of like trauma response to society, then try to do things that aren't in your mind, like in the category of exercise. So movement can be walking, movement can be stretching, movement can be progressive muscle relaxation, movement can be gardening, taking a trash bag and going out into your neighborhood and picking up trash, kneading dough, chopping vegetables, walking around and seeing if you can find all the colors of the rainbow in your environment, scrubbing a toilet. It really can be a lot of things, and it doesn't have to be exercise, and it doesn't have to be a huge span of time, okay? So you can start with 10 minutes, and if you can increase to 20 minutes a day, like 2 10-minute chunks, that's a nice place to be. Obviously, you're going to find what works best for your individual body, but you don't need to do more than 10-20 minutes a day. Giving that to yourself can start to really support the mobilization. So that's the one side of effective mobilization, is getting yourself some movement where you're able to like pay attention and be in your body and not be in a super stress response. So it's a really like mindful movement. And then the other piece is assertive communication. So if we think about it, what is the function of anger? Anger is there to tell you you have been violated in some way, okay? Anger is not there to harm the other person. It's there to tell you you've been violated and you need some assertive communication, which can include honesty and boundaries, right? So if I'm having a lot of anger and I am not supporting it with assertive communication, then that anger is going to feed off of itself and just be this like ragey turmoil inside of us, okay? So when I have anger, my goal is to identify where have I been violated, okay? And what can I do about it? And this is not about changing anyone else's behavior. Some people misunderstand boundaries as an effort to change someone else's behavior. But assertive communication is acceptance and boundaries, right? So it's like, if I go to, and I love this analogy, so you've probably heard me say it before, if I go to the hardware store, and I learned this from 12-step groups. If I go to the hardware store and I'm like, I want some bread. And they're like, actually, we don't sell bread. I may feel violated in the sense that I wanted bread and this place doesn't have it. So if I have anger come forward, it's telling me, you're not going to be able to get your needs met here. So I'm not then going to go into like, well, you're ridiculous. Why don't you sell bread? You should sell bread. Can you make me some bread? Like, how dare you not make me some bread? I'm going to get all my friends and we're going to protest your store because you don't sell bread. Assertive communication is, oh, okay, I accept the fact that you don't make bread. Maybe I want to check, right? So I could be like, would you be willing to make me some bread? And then if they're like, no, we don't have an oven, we don't have any wheat, we don't have any flour or whatever. I'm like, okay, plenty good. I am now going to take it upon myself to go and find a place where they have bread, or I'm going to make myself some bread, or I'm going to be like, all right, it's no bread. What else can I do to like meet my needs? That's assertive communication. And the boundary piece is also about taking care of me and taking self-responsibility. So let's say that someone is like, I am going to call you 12 times a day to tell you that I think you're a piece of shit. And I'm going to be like, oh, okay. I have some anger come up, that tells me that I'm feeling violated in some way. This is not working for me in some way. So I could ask the person, actually, I'd prefer you not do that. Can you not do that? And if they're like, nope, this is what I'm going to do, then you get to set the boundary for yourself, not asking them to change their behavior, but you get to be like, all right, what are my options? Because I'd prefer this not to happen. I can change my phone number. I can block their number. I can, you know, what are some other options? I can turn my phone off during the day. Um, I I don't know what other options there might be, but those are some options that don't have anything to do with them, right? So we can ask people around us to change things, but we never ask it expecting them to do it. We're just like, oh, because sometimes, like if, let's say my kid is listening to something really loudly, I can be like, hey, would you be willing to listen to that through headphones? And if he's like, no, my head really hurts or my headphones are broken or whatever, I'd be like, okay, what can we do? Like, could I have you go into a room that has a door that it could shut? Could I put some earplugs in? Could I go into a different room where there's a door that could shut? Could I put on a noisemaker machine so that like your sound is not as impactful to my environment, right? I could troubleshoot a whole bunch of things. So I'm asking by giving them clarity, like, this is what would be preferable for me, knowing that they may or may not be able to like go with that. And then I find all sorts of solutions. So my boundaries are never like asking someone else to do something. It's creating a situation in which I get to keep myself safe or get my needs met without requiring somebody else to change. So my number one resource for assertive communication is How to Be an Adult by David Richo. I don't I don't know that that's for sure how you pronounce this last name, but this is an excellent book. I highly recommend it. It's short, and it's old, but it's just the assertive like rights of an assertive person are just like shocking and amazing. And if you have never looked into like what's passive aggressive communication, what's aggressive communication, what's assertive communication, your mind is going to be blown. It seriously rocked my world. It's so amazing. And then you can look into also the interpersonal effectiveness communication skills that are in dialectical behavioral therapy. So DBT, interpersonal effectiveness, and I can link something in the, just going to put a note in the description. So two-pronged approach to when you're moving through the SSP, or if you're just a person who's starting to notice some irritation and anger, as the people who are going through the SSP, as your sympathetic is coming back online, two-pronged approach to support yourself through this time period is movement and assertive communication. So start adding movement to your day and start learning about and practicing assertive communication. And this will really support you in moving through sympathetic, and it'll give you the ability to turn anger into the resolution of the place that you were experiencing being violated, instead of turning anger into just like cyclical rage. Okay, so let me know what you think about this. And I love you so much. Okay.